Let's have a look at a very interesting aspect of air transportation, especially to do with airlines, which is aircraft storage. The content of this particular presentation was made by two interns, Arman Aditya from MIT Manipal and Yash Kapshikar, the NPTEL intern. Why do we need to store aircraft? Okay, aircraft is a commodity available to the airline to provide service, to carry cargo, passengers, or both. Now, sometimes there could be scenarios during the operation when you have excess capacity and you don't need all the aircraft. You can't dispose them off, you would like to just keep them. So, storage of aircraft is a very common practice in the airline industry. Okay, you can see here, for example, Cathay Pacific Airline has stored so many aircraft, in one particular airport. But the world noticed about aircraft storage recently during the COVID-19, which necessitated mass grounding of aircraft worldwide. So, after COVID-19, people came to know more about the aircraft storage. For example, you can see in this image, large number of aircraft have been grounded at Hong Kong International Airport on 6th March. This is the photograph taken. Due to COVID, there was a worldwide drop in the demand and airlines had to store the aircraft. You can notice that different type of aircraft, small, medium, large, all of them have been stored. So, the question arises is, should we store or should we park? Okay. This is an example of an engine which is covered for grounding the aircraft. This is not into storage, this is into some parking. Now, parking versus storage is a very important question. Normal parking is for up to a week period where the aircraft is in flight ready condition and in between two flights or because there is some maintenance going on, you need to park the aircraft. You will not need specific maintenance tasks to be done if it is up to 1 week or normal parking. But it could be extended parking, also called as active storage. This is for up to half a year. Here, because of the lack in demand or lack in the ability of the airline to offer the service, the aircraft is out of operation for a short to medium term. Here what we do is, we do not remove the interiors and the critical components, we leave them as it is, but we provide facilities to store them properly. Then you have long term storage up to 1 year. Here the aircraft is out of operation for a medium term to a very long term. In the case of storage, we remove the major parts. For example, the engines are removed, the auxiliary power unit or APU is removed, the main electronic components are also removed, flaps are also removed and the aircraft is then stored. Storage is not going to be at a low price, it is very expensive. For example, an aircraft like Airbus A380 can cost up to $5,000 to $10,000 per month to store. A Boeing 747 is also a large aircraft, it costs about $10,000 to store. Smaller aircraft like Boeing 737 and Airbus A320, they may require only about $2,000 per month to store. Okay. Now, the cost of storage of a large aircraft like Airbus A380 depends on multiple factors. What are these? Where is the storage? How long is the storage expected to be? Is it 1 year or few years? And what kind of maintenance or ground handling is required during the storage period? All these decide the cost of the storage. Now, there are many aircraft boneyards and storage facilities available. Now, boneyards, they serve various functions. Number one, they allow temporary storage of aircraft. They also allow maintenance to be carried out on these aircraft. In some cases, we scavenge the parts from the boneyard aircraft because they are not going to be used, but the spare parts can be used, and sometimes we want to use the boneyards for scrapping the aircraft. So, we have to put it at some place where it can be scrapped. That means the parts can be removed and sold as raw material. Now, let us have a look at the aircraft boneyard and storage facilities all over the world. Broadly speaking, there are 4 locations. In the US, there are certain boneyards as well as some commercial aircraft boneyards. Then in the European Union, we have some locations, especially in Spain. Then we have in Africa, in Botswana, and we also have it in Australia. Now, the Asia Pacific Aircraft Storage in Australia, or APAS, is the latest and the first in the Asia Pacific region. This is in Alice Springs Airport in the Northern Territory of Australia. This particular boneyard was completed in 2013 and it began operations in 2014. And the dry arid climate at this location is very much suitable for aircraft storage and preservation. In fact, boneyards are located mostly in dry and arid locations. Okay. Now, here is the photograph from Google Earth of APAS in 2022 during the time when COVID was still very active. You can see there are large number of aircraft stored there, and here the same location, the Google image in 2025 shows that there are far less number of aircraft now in the storage compared to what was there last time. Okay. Now, there are many steps involved in long term storage of an aircraft. Right sizing, picking a appropriate storage spot, protecting the aircraft appropriately, and monitoring and maintenance of the aircraft. So, these 4 steps are very important whenever we go for any long term storage. By long term, I mean more than a year. Right sizing. Here is an aircraft, large aircraft Boeing 747-400, and here is a small aircraft Boeing 737 MAX. The first question that the airline has to answer or decide is which one to store. Depending on the requirements of the market and their own ability, they will either store a large aircraft or a small aircraft. Now, selecting the aircraft and which one to keep active and which one to park is an important decision, and this decision is based on this fundamental question. Okay. How much use will we get out of this aircraft if we keep it active? If the answer is that there will be substantial market utilization, you do not store it. If the answer is no, there isn't much demand for this type of aircraft in our current operations, then you store it. The second point is where to store. There are many options, as I mentioned to you. You could store it in Mojave Desert in the US, a very popular and very common location for storage. You can see large number of aircraft are parked here for storage. You could do it in Europe in a place called Teruel in Spain, which also has got large number of aircraft, as you can see in the picture, or you could do it in the Asia Pacific storage point, Alice Springs, where you can see a large number of Boeing or Airbus A380 of the Singapore Airlines are stored, and they are slowly being removed from the storage and brought into service as the market is picking up after the COVID. So, the storage equation, it requires first of all regular maintenance to keep the aircraft in good condition. It also should have low humidity and rain, because rain and moisture, they increase the rate of corrosion for certain parts, and therefore it is not suitable for storage. The arid spots are going to slow down these effects, and hence they are more suitable for storage. The third step is to protect the aircraft appropriately. You have to mothball them properly, right? You have to cover the engines, and you have to also protect the whole aircraft. So, here is an example of an aircraft in storage before the storage is done, and the same aircraft is with a mothballing system. Okay. And then notice that there are these locations from where we can have suction of the air. So, this is how you mothball the aircraft, so that the elements do not play a role. The third aspect is to keep in mind the procedure for storage and parking. So, first thing we do is we remove all the oils and replace them with something called as an inhibition fluid, which does not lead to any corrosion. This is an antioxidant. Then it also has higher viscosity to stop it from settling at the bottom of the system. Then the landing gears and the engines are packed. Okay. So, the openings are wrapped up and made watertight, so that no moisture enters inside them. The batteries are disconnected so that they do not discharge. All the seats inside the aircraft are covered, and the outflow and the fan exhaust valves are closed to ensure that there is no entry of any undesirable elements. For example, there are many situations where insects and birds can nest in an aircraft if the exhaust openings are not properly closed. And lastly, we need to provide regular maintenance of the aircraft when they are stored. So, when you store the aircraft for a long period, you need routine fleet-wide checks conducted. You need to look at the tires, because tires at one spot, if they are standing, they will develop flat spots. So, we have to ensure that either the tires are lifted plane, gear by gear you lift the plane, or you roll them a short distance so that they do not stagnate at one particular point. Then if you look at an engine which has got a low pressure spool, you turn it manually after every 45 days, especially if you store it outside. This is to ensure that there is no jamming. Okay. Then the aircraft doors have to be opened regularly, so that we do not have any unpleasant or fouling smells created inside. Then the fuel in the aircraft is tested regularly for the presence of water, because water in the fuel is going to promote the growth of bacteria. The control surfaces of the aircraft, they are powered up and they are tested for once in every 3 months, so that there is no jamming or no problem there. But there are some difficulties when you store and park the aircraft. Often you will load the aircraft with fuel present there to keep them from rocking in the wind, because otherwise they will start moving with the wind, and to ensure that the fuel tanks stay lubricated. Then sometimes inside the engine you put very giant silica sachets. The purpose of this is to keep them dry and to absorb the moisture, right. Now, once you decide to reactivate the aircraft after storage, you have to obtain what is called as a certification for release to service. This is a very important document which certifies that the aircraft is ready for operations. This is issued after several stringent checks are performed on the aircraft. But CRS is not only meant when you reactivate the aircraft of storage, CRS is also required after routine or unscheduled maintenance, or after any bird strike, or after lightning strikes on the aircraft. It is a very standard documentation which is required, because it confirms that the aircraft can be released for service. And lastly, before you actually release the aircraft for operational usage after a long-term storage, you need to do some flights to check that everything is working properly. So, you have final flight checks by pilots. Interestingly, about 100 working hours might be needed to return a wide body aircraft to service after it is stored. So, it is not a small option. Okay. So, you can see the aircraft parts being serviced for bringing them back to the skies. It requires lots of man hours to really do it. Okay. Thank you for your attention.